Hello everyone, you are listening to Yo Radio with DJ Sakara. Sorry, I was a little bit not paying attention as usual. And well, I'm finally here with you for our next community interview. And this week we have the pleasure of receiving the Majestic Oaks Auction House. My God, I can't pronounce this. Tongue twister for me. From Great Lakes. And I'm actually just going to be referring to them as MOA. It's going to be a lot easier for me. And so we are receiving them from Great Lakes, as I was saying, to find out a bit more about what they do and all the cool stuff they actually organize. And so to get to know them better, I have three of their members with me today. Their GM, Pratt, and I believe I wouldn't say council members. I'm not quite sure what their rank is, but two more of his guildies who are Gregory and DJ Scorp. So I will give them a chance to say hi to all of you so that you can get more familiar with their voices. So Pratt, if you would like to introduce yourself and say hi to everybody.
Good evening, Britannia.
And we have Gregory, if you want to say hi.
Greetings to you all.
And DJ Scorp, if you want to say hello.
Good evening, and for the record, our, ranking is Pratt's little slaves, little servants.
Okay. I could use a few of those myself. I'm going to have to talk to Pratt, see how he manages to get himself a couple of slaves. That seems to be quite willing, actually. Could use a few of those. But getting right down to business, I'm actually going to address the first question to Pratt, but every other question will be open to any of the three of you, and just like switch your channel commander on when you want to answer, and you both, all three of you can answer whenever. So Pratt, are you the founder of MOA, and if yes, what inspired you to start this guild?
The founder. That's a great question. I wouldn't really say that I'm the founder, since we were working for a different auction before there was an MOA, and we all decided that we were unhappy with what was going on there. About 12 out of the 15 ex-auction staff decided that we were going to just resign, pack it up. So that's what we did. For about 2 weeks, we did nothing, stood around Westbridge, talked on ICQ. Then one day, a friend of ours called us over to a little island outside Minot, said, "You guys have to do this again." And we said, "No, we don't. We've been doing this for years. It's too much grief. We're done." Needless to say, he's a very persuasive person with a lot of gold on his hands. That talked us into doing another auction. And there was Majestic Oaks. So it was actually founded by somebody who's not in the guild.
Wow. And so how many of you actually left? Did you say 15?
12 out of 15.
Holy cow. I don't even dare ask what's become of the original guild.
Well, that's another long story. I'm gonna try to be nice. We had a difference of opinion with the person who was running the Impy Guild at the time. He left the game for 2 years, left the auction with us, left the guild with us, then returned and had all kinds of new ideas, and it just didn't work out. So they went on for like about 2 weeks. The couple of people that stayed out of loyalty, and then it died off.
Wow, that's sad. But and so how long have you guys, MOA, been active now? Is it like 2 years?
This is our second year. This is our second Christmas anyway.
Yeah, pretty nice. So I'm assuming things are going rather well then. And, you know, it's kind of interesting because I was reading your website and I was trying to figure out what kind of a guild you were, because I mean the title does say auction house, but you seem to be doing so much more than just running auctions. So, and you seem to have a bit of RP going on there as well. So what do you consider yourselves exactly as?
I'd like to say we're an event house, all different types of events. We started auctions years ago under different names, and it's branched off to we now have a house totally dedicated to an event every week that's not an auction. It's called Monday Night at the Castle, which is where the original auction took place, and they do a different event each week, whether it's a trivia pursuit or a casino night. We're also not only Great Lakes Guild. Lake Superior does an auction on Tuesday nights, which Gregory runs. And then we have a monthly event that, depending on what kind of mood Ethereal's in, encompasses the word events. So the auction's just a part of it. It is where we got started, but we do bring events to Great Lakes. We have just opened Red Devil's Auction Tower, an old Felucca event house that really got this whole thing started.
Wow, so you basically are not just in Great Lakes, because I kind of had seen that you had items that were listed on both Great Lakes and Lake Superior, and I was kind of wondering about that. And so, who actually runs the one on Lake Superior? Is it pretty much the same crew that are on both shards, or it's just like a sister guild that's down there? Yes, Gregory.
We do have our own auction staff on Lake Superior, of course, although seeing how we would like to really be more of a one big MOA family rather than a couple of groups running different things, we do have a lot of interchanging staff members between nights, between shards. So there's a lot of going back and forth. So while we do have separate staff, separate teams more or less, it is still one big guild that everyone is doing on both shards. Well, not everyone, but most of them are going on both shards.
Well, that's pretty neat. Viceroy, you want to say something? Go ahead.
Yeah, I actually have a question about the Red Devil's Tavern and everything, because as I've been reading the Stratic News and following along with it, and there seems to be some controversy over the establishment of that very place in which I just mentioned, Red Devil's Tavern, I think that, or Red Devil's Tower. Can you explain to me and the listeners out there as to what's really going on with that, and what's the controversy surrounding that? Go ahead, Pratt.
Oh, I so want to answer this question. I haven't spent enough time the last month going through this with the GMs in Great Lakes and all our good friends at Stratix. It's a very fun issue for me. What happened is one day, about 3 months ago, somebody came to us and said, I own Red Devils now. I have no use for it. I'd like to see it opened again. Can you do it? There's 30 of us now at MOA. We can do anything. All right, and our dedication is to bring events to the shard, so we said, sure, we can do it. So the tower was handed to us and said, open it up again. And that's what we did. Little did we know there was going to be an added bonus to get people to come to our event once a month. A guild known as BC, or Black Company, has decided there's back taxes due on the tower and that we need to pay them. So after we all laughed for about a half an hour, we said, okay, we can still do this. And now we're going to have some people running around outside providing entertainment at the same time.
Wow, that's very interesting. And just to, familiarize you with the system, don't turn off your red light until you're actually done. That way I know when you're actually done, with your response. But that's really interesting that you pretty much say that BC demands that you owe them, or says that, or claims that you owe them back taxes, or whatever, some late taxes that wasn't ever paid by the previous owner or whatever. Because we have interviewed, I think, the Black Company Guild over here from Great Lakes on Yo Radio, and they seem to be a quite interesting group, and this is all very interesting stuff. So if you can elaborate a little bit more as to what kind of action did you guys do? Did you end up paying the taxes in which they claimed you owe on the establishment, or what did you guys end up doing in that regard? So go ahead, Pratt.
Before I answer that, I'd like to say there's no malice at all between MOA and BC as far as we're concerned. We're not in the business of malice. We're in the business of events. They decided we weren't going to do this event for whatever reason, and the role play of the whole thing is just great. Okay, of course we're not going to pay them any taxes since we're non-profit, first of all. We're not taking anybody's money on Feluca. All the events that we did over there are for no fees whatsoever, just to bring the tower back and try to get some people over to Feluca. So, of course, we refused to pay anything, and we said we were going to do the auction anyway. And we did, and they came and they attacked, and they cast spells on the roof, and they cast spells through the houses, and everything they could to disrupt our event. Needless to say, the GMs couldn't do anything about it for many reasons, which we appreciate. We're on Feluca, you know. We didn't expect to go over there and have it easy. We didn't have it easy when it was Raw Devils, when there was no travel. So we did it. We had the first auction. Lots of people got killed. We sold some items. We had some fun. Hundreds of people showed up to defend the tower, and it was just a great event. And then we did another one about a month later, and we had less people, and we had to move it down a floor so that the people weren't getting attacked on the roof. But at the same time, people came out to defend the tower, people came out to buy some items, and we provided an event. It was great.
Excellent. All right. Well, with that said, I'll turn it back over to Sakara. Thank you.
Alrighty. Actually, it's interesting because you kind of answered one of the questions I was going to ask earlier, and it's, you know, whether or not you guys are only Trammel-based or Fel-based as well. But now you seem to be saying that you have is that like a second house in Feluca, or is your main auction house in Fel? Yes, Brad.
The main house is on Trammel. This auction house is just a foundation landmark of Great Lakes that we decided we'd take back and reopen for somebody else. But all of the other event houses are on Trammel or on Malice. Even though a lot of us players are from way back before there was no Trammel and Malice. I own about 5 houses in Fel still myself.
Okay. Now, let's see here. I was wondering, you guys started out with 12 people from that 15 of the original guild. And I believe it was Gregory, I think, who mentioned that you are now 30. So what are your recruiting policies? If somebody would like to join MOA, what would they have to do? And, you know, what kind of people are you guys looking for, if at all? Yes, Brad.
MOA doesn't recruit. We've never recruited anybody. If somebody wants to join, our answer to them is hang around, get to know the staff. If you really want to help out after you get to know us, and you don't care that we don't make anything off of this and we spend hours each week trying to provide events for people, then you're in. And that's how it goes.
Okay, so there is no actual policy. It's really eventually if you become close enough to somebody. Yes, Gorp, go ahead.
Yeah, it's just pretty much word of mouth, friends, and just willing to dedicate your time for nothing. And really the enjoyment we all get out of it is just providing a good event. And whether it's 3 people that get enjoyment or 70 people, as long as we bring a smile to at least someone's face throughout this game, that's not a EM regulated event, something that we do. It's just that's where we get the enjoyment out of it. And if people can come that wish to join, always they have to be on that kind of same page, because we're not making anything. If anything, it probably costs us gold at times, and that's pretty much where you have to be to get into MOA.
Okay. Now, before we actually get to more details about your the events that you organize, what can you tell me about, basically your auction house? Because I always wondered if auction houses really get a steady influx of items to be auctioned off, or if you actually end up with certain days where it's so, basically you get so few items being submitted, that you basically end up skipping and not doing any auction on the scheduled day. Yes, Pratt?
We always have items. That's the only problem we've never had. We've had benefactors. We still have people who will just bring 20 items a week to a specified house that we use for just certain submitters, drop the items off, come back a week later for checks, and everything gets sorted automatically for them. We could do 40, 50 a week like that. We have a lot of strong supporters that have been with us for a long time that rely on MOA to sell their items on both shards, as well as people walking through the door every day. My ICQ goes off every day. I want to submit an item. I want to submit an item. We are 2 weeks behind as we're having this conversation, which means anything you submit now will not sell next Wednesday or Thursday because of the holidays, so we're a week behind. And it's always been that way. We have a policy that we allow some of the staff members to submit their items, but on the behalf that it will not sell until everything else in the chest is sold. People have items in there for months that work for MOA, and the items just don't get sold.
Holy cow. And so how behaved are people during those auctions? Because I have to say, I have been to a few auctions myself, and most of the time, one of the main reasons I didn't really bother going back is because people could be like total jerks, and I see the staff trying to be extremely patient, but after a while it's like, there's only so much banning you can do. Yes, Corp.
At times, it can be a little trying, and it's probably one of the most thankless tasks out of our entire staff are what we call the gator greeters, because there's always a fine line of what's allowable to let the crowd play, because you don't want people just to be robots and go out there. You want people to have a good time, and a little bit of bantering isn't necessarily a bad thing. And normally, when I'm in the hot seat auctioneering, I kind of egg the crowd on a little bit more. So when I do auctioneering, there's always a little bit more rowdiness out there, but it's all in good fun. And for the most part, people know not to cross a certain line, and we try not to ban. We really just like to remove someone, let them know they've crossed the line, come back in, have a good time. And for the most part, they understand that, and I think it's come with how long we've been around that they understand and respect that what we bring to the shard, that you kind of eliminate a lot of the silliness.
Okay. And I just wanted to check, do you do auctions in both FEL and TRAM, or are the auctions basically only in TRAM? Yes, Gregory.
Our auctions are basically only in TRAM. Well, if only for security reasons. It's really hard to get security down properly in Felucca. Of course, we all started out back there, and it was possible back then, but if we think back, this was not Felucca, not what we have now with the split between Trammel and Felucca. So the audiences we used to get were a lot different from what we have here now at MOA. So yes, basically our auctions are in Trammel, with the exception of the Red Devils auction, which is once a month in Felucca at the old Blessed Tower.
Okay. I think Viceroy wants to make a comment, then I will ask you one of the questions from somebody listening to our show right now. So go ahead.
Yes, I'm actually kind of curious about the auctions and everything. I think you said that you conduct the auctions on Wednesdays and Thursdays. Is that every week? And And can you also tell me a little bit more about the rules exactly? What are the rules exactly? So that way, if I was to go into your auction house and everything, I at least have, and should I be happen, or anybody else out there be listening to this show and everything, and they know the rules before they go into this auction house of yours. I mean, for example, do you guys allow people to drink in your auction? Because I know that can sometimes be a little disruptive if everybody's, getting drunk at the auction and everything with all the emotes and the hiccups and stuff like that. And also, do you guys charge a fee to actually place items into the auction, or do you guys do that as a free service to the community? So if you could explain that a little bit, that'd be great. Go ahead, Pratt.
Okay. The first answer is no drinking. Unfortunately, it interferes with the journal of the auctioneer as you're hiccuping through the auction. We cannot allow anything that interferes with the journal because you can't watch the room as auctioneer. You have to watch your journal. You can't watch what side of the room anything's coming from. All you can do is watch the journal, make sure you yell out the next number and you didn't miss a bid. So there is no drinking. Fees are 5% of an item sold if it sells. If it doesn't sell, you can have it back. The 5% goes to the gold, the giveaways, the prizes that are going on every night, that there's an MOA event, plus the monthly events. None of the gold stays at MOA. It all gets given back. The rules are easy. Don't interfere with the auction while it's going on. And that doesn't mean, wow, that item sold for a great price. We don't mind stuff like that. It's the people who want to cast spells over and over again just to disrupt, or yell out the same thing over and over again, or say how cheap they could buy that item off a vendor in malice, and why should we be here? Comments like that are derogatory and do not help us provide the best event that we can to the shard. Things like that are not tolerated. We don't allow spell casting of any sort except for your recalls or your Sacred Journey to go to the bank and get your check when you win an item. If you want to submit an item, you put it in a bag, you write out a book saying this is my item, this is the minimum bid, here's my ICQ number. You ICQ one of the staff that's listed on the website. We'll meet you, we'll take it, and it'll sell.
All right. And so, Gregory, go ahead.
I do have a quick addition to the rules. One of our most important rules really is to keep up some decency. We do run a family show and we want to keep it that way. So we do not want people to go around cursing the house down. If they're careful with it, they get removed for it and receive a warning outside. But there are some things that are absolutely not accepted in that respect.
Alrighty. I was actually wondering, because you mentioned people have to prepare their items with, it has to be in a bag with a book saying what the minimum bid is and stuff like that. But, and this kind of mates with the question that Crafty was asking us to ask you guys. He's asking, how do you price rares when the provider does not know a price? By example, he gives the example of the Royal Guard dart. If somebody wants to auction an item like that, and they just don't know what it's worth. I personally have no idea what it's worth. How do you go about pricing it? Do you already have like kind of a price list? And by extension, there's a question I was going to ask you. If somebody says, somebody brings you a Whispering Rose and tells you that the minimum bid he would want for it, for a Whispering Rose with a very common name, would be, 250K, which is ludicrous. What do you tell these people? Do you go like, okay, that's their minimum price and, that's what we're going to be selling it for? Or do you go like, look, buddy, this is like a waste of our time or whatever? Go ahead, Pratt.
Appraising items is a tricky thing. Telling somebody their item's worth 5 million gold as an MOA person standing behind that counter means if we don't sell it for 5 million gold, we're the bad guy. So appraisals are really hard. In the example that you gave, if somebody walked in with a Royal Guard dart, in my head right now I'm thinking it's worth about 3 million on our shard, just on my experience standing there every week watching items sold. I would tell that person on the high side to expect that much, but probably about half that. course, you're always going to say it's worth what somebody will pay for it, depends on the crowd, and you want to encourage the person to look for the best price, but you can't make a promise that we can't keep, obviously. So it's hard to give a high appraisal. We try to be pretty safe when we give our estimates of value. And if a guy comes in with a minimum on an item that's 100 times what it should be, yeah, I'm going to hand it back to him and say, sorry, it's not worth anywhere near that, and it's only going to no sale on the table.
Okay. Scorp, did you want to say something?
I think Pratt pretty much covered that as well as it can be said there. So I'll let Greg respond with whatever he has next.
Okay. All right, Gregory, go right ahead.
Just a quick thing, really. Well, Pratt pretty much said it all. We usually try not to tell people that they're wasting our time simply because we're there for the people of the Shard, and that's our job to do this. And so we usually try to talk to people, and maybe they just put a very high minimum bid out of pure ignorance, and they can be just well talked to, and usually that's sorted out really nicely. On a quick side note, I'm rather sure Pratt mistook the item that was specifically asked for. The Royal Guard Dart is would be worth quite a bit more than 3 million, but since it's an event rare, it's really, really hard to appraise. So yeah, that's it.
Okay, go ahead, Scorp.
Yeah, and some of the little things we do sometimes is just to encourage a new submitter to maybe just come in and sit in on an auction and just get some ideas of what items do sell for at MOA, and it gives them a better understanding on what they can expect for their items, or even if this is the venue in which they wish to sell their items.
Actually, talking about that, as you were mentioning, some people walk in and say, well, why come to an auction house when you could just go, to run around Luna and maybe get it for cheaper or for a lot more, because we all know prices in Luna can be outrageous more often than not. And but I was kind of wondering, are there any other large, well-known auction houses on Great Lakes, and do you consider them as competition, even though, based on what Pratt was saying, that you guys are backlogged with so many items to sell, you don't seem to be in any pain whatsoever fighting people to items to sell. But is there any competition on your Shard, and or do other potentially existing auction houses really don't affect you in any way? Yes, Pratt.
Oh, I want to answer that question. There are other auction houses. There have been other auction houses. We have been other auction houses. What it comes down to is these are all the same people that we started playing the game with so long ago. A new auction just opened, SOW, which is Hurricane, who used to have Hurricane's auction before there was an MOA. He also has people that used to work for Impies working for him. Some of them have come from RD's, which is the beginning. REA auction, which is a great auction. Good friends of mine, good friends of all of ours, just resigned and sold out to Ren, who is another good friend of ours who's going to go have an auction. So really, it's just a big happy family as far as I'm concerned on the Shard. When we're related to other event houses, we do events with these people. I'm sorry, the phone's ringing. We do events for these people, and we don't consider them competition. We consider them family.
Oh, well, that's actually cool, as long as you're not at each other's throat, I guess. DJ Corp.
Actually, that's okay. For myself personally, and I think I speak for most of us, is we don't really see other event or auction houses as competition, as I actually enjoy going to auctions, and for a change, being able to attend some of these others and being allowed to bid is fun, because that's how I actually got involved back at Impies, is just by being a patron and sitting in and enjoying the show, bidding on an item. Winning, losing, didn't matter, but just partaking in it and just having a chance to go to another well-run event somewhere on the Shard is just, get a chance to relive those old ways and not actually have to work in auctioneer or something.
Okay, Pratt, go ahead.
That's a really good point. I love to sit in on the auctions. I love to buy items, except the problem is I can't sell them because there's so many items waiting to be sold. I'm going to start submitting to some of these other auctions. This way I'll have some gold.
God knows we need some of that these days with all the insurance we're paying over everything. Gregory, go ahead.
Well, that's a good thing you're saying that, because actually that's one of the huge plus sides in doing the MOA thing. It's so time consuming really that, well, okay, real life plays in with that as well, of course, but I really have not logged on for anything other than event stuff in way too long. So I kind of saved up on insurance money. But anyway, to answer your questions, it was pretty much said, but the main reason why we don't see other auction houses as competition is that, once again, our goal is to bring events to the Shard and to the people of the Shard. So every other player-run event house, whether they do auctions or we have the Chicken Fight Club on Great Lakes, which are doing a really an awesome job. We really want to further these things, and we want to support them wherever possible. So no, definitely no competition. Quite the opposite. As to why would you go to an auction rather than run around Luna or wherever, it is true that for the seller, in most cases, I say in most cases, you will be able to sell your items for more money if you have a lot of patience on a vendor or at BritBank or wherever. And it is also true that as a buyer, in many situations, if you spend a long time running around the Shard and checking all the player-run vendors and stuff, you will be able to find your item possibly a little cheaper than with us. But I mean, the point of an auction is, well, it's twofold. One is you have it all there, and you have it all right there at this moment. You don't have to run around and put up a vendor and tend to the vendor, which is quite a good reason for some people to sell their stuff through us rather than on the vendor. And the same goes for the buyer, of course. And apart from that, it's just honestly, it's a lot of fun. I came to MOA through just sitting at auctions, and it's just fun. Even if you don't buy, even if you don't sell, it's fun to be there. It's fun to watch. It's fun to have the interaction with the staff members and the other people. It's all about fun. Well, it's not all about fun. Of course, there's some seriousness in there, but it's all about enjoying ourselves. It's a game, and we want to have fun.
Yeah, it is true that, when you're sitting there auctioning it off, it can be quite a bit of fun. I know we did a couple of fundraisers for, for the holidays for the needy, and we were having a really good time, and some people were actually raising the prices at a ridiculous rate. And it was more in good fun because we were there to raise money, so we were really there just to give money away, so we had no problem doing that. But that actually brings another question, but I'm going to let DJ Scorp say what he wanted to say first, and then I will ask the question. So go ahead, Scorp.
Just if you were curious, Greg's personal posts on our staff forum are just as long-winded as that last answer to the question. But yes, also for people that do submit to us, it's a chance for their item to actually be the feature instead of having 25 vendors with a bunch of items around. You got 50 to 70 people all looking at one item for sale at a time. So it's being featured, and it might just very well go for more than what they would on a vendor.
Yes, I have to agree that I've seen a few items go for significantly more at auctions than you might have gotten on your vendor. But as far as long-winded goes, don't pick on him. I'm worse. seriously, one of these days you'll have to listen to one of our talk shows on on Saturday. They have to tackle me and put a muzzle on me or something because I can go on and on and on and on, and you haven't seen me posting on forums. It's even worse. It's actually a novel. And I have no shame whatsoever. Go ahead, Gregory.
We're not going to have a forum war about it. But anyway, I just came to my mind. One other reason for people to submit at an auction is they just don't know really well what to expect of an item. They don't want to sell way below value, and they don't want to demand ridiculous prices, so they just put it on the auction block and see how it goes. That's a good way for checking out prices. And I wanted to say something else, but I forgot.
Well, when it comes back to you, just holler. Go ahead, Pratt.
I'll elaborate on that. What he's trying to say is, if you don't know what it's worth, how many times we've had a new update, a new item come to the shard the same night that the auction goes on. We make sure there's one on the table. We make sure the first item available of whatever type comes to MOA so we can gauge the market for everybody.
Okay. The question I was actually going to ask is regarding people boosting prices. Like, you're going to have some people just come in there and, an auction is starting, and they really do not intend to buy. They're just sitting there and, going like bidding and bidding and bidding because they know this person really, really wants it, but they don't really want to buy it. They're just there to boost the price, and then they bail out. Some of them actually win and take off. And when that happens, how do you handle that? Or then you're going to have people that are the actual owner of the item, and they're really just trying to get more money for it. And they either come on an alternate character, use incogs or whatever, and just start boosting the prices just so that they force other people to pay more for something that they could have gotten for cheaper. Yes, Brett, go ahead.
It's pretty funny. Great Lakes is pretty funny. Whether we're talking about, UO Radio or MOA or Stratix, there's a circle of influence. People who who are always going to tell you stuff. So my ICQ will go off during the auction. It'll be from somebody I know saying, this guy's here bidding on his own item. And of course, you have no way to prove it, but you have to let him bid. If he doesn't pay, he can't bid anymore. He can't submit anymore. There's no real way for us to know if somebody's trying to do that, but if we get an inkling somebody's encouraging a bid without intent to pay, they're on the outside looking in before they can ask why.
Okay. Gregory, go ahead.
That was pretty much on the lines that of a thing that I had forgotten, because you said something about people boosting prices and stuff in your little auction you did yourself. That is one of our rules. Our rule definitely says that fake bidding is a bannable offense. So if we actually catch someone fake bidding, this is a ban, and it is not it is a permanent ban usually. Well, sometimes we have to ban people, and we usually take the ban off after the night. Fake bidding definitely is not such a ban. It is always hard to say when people are fake bidding, and it is usually with first offenders, it's definitely not possible to say it, to tell at all whether they're fake bidding or not. So if someone is just boosting prices and then fails to win the bid, we cannot do anything about this, because obviously there was someone else in the room who also wanted the item and who was willing to pay what they actually in the end bid on the item. So it seems to us then that the boosting of prices was somewhere within reason, and of course if we know that people do this just for that reason, they're still out, but we usually can't tell. If someone wins a bid and then recalls out and never comes back, obviously nothing can be done about this either, although we do take down names and guild affiliations of such people and we try to track these to keep track of these things for future events. We had all kinds of stuff happening actually with some. For example, we had people come in on 2 different accounts, the same person, and bidding against each other to ridiculous amounts. Such a thing takes some fine-tuning to figure out, and it's not always possible to do this. But once again, if they are caught, they are out of there.
And so what would you do? Would you, do you actually start the bid over, or you just give it to the last highest bid? Yes, Brad.
You can't just give it to the last highest bidder, because that person may have been stoking that bid for $1 million or $2 million in some cases. The only way to do it, once you realize that person was just raising the bid, is to start over so the person can get it at a fair price before the imposter came in. And if somebody doesn't pay for an item, then it just gets listed again the next night with an explanation to the seller, and if they want to come take it back, they can come take it back.
Fair enough. DJ Scorp, go ahead.
For the most part, this is a rarity that this happens. I mean, I would say 99% of the time everything goes smooth as it should. People bid on their items, they go grab a check, and they come and pay. And occasionally, maybe once a month, you might get someone that doesn't come back to pay, or just is acting silly with some outrageous nonsense bid, and then you already know how to deal with that.
Alrighty. One more question regarding the like your fees. Basically, how do you collect those? Because I know that here on Atlantic, because I play mostly Atlantic, in our auction houses, generally what they do is that when somebody wins a bid, they just toss the item on a vendor, and they just, whoever's buying the item just buys it off the vendor. Pratt earlier mentioned if the person wanted to go get a check. So I'm kind of wondering, do you guys use the vendor as well, or do people systematically go get checks for it? And as far as your fees are concerned, do you settle with the sellers at the end of the day, or do you settle with them right away? Like, how do you proceed? Yes, Gregory.
The way this works is we had considered doing the vendor thing at one point, especially for the Felucca auction, but it's just we decided against it because you can't control who buys something off a vendor and things like that. So what we do is we have a dedicated cashier at every auction who keeps track of who bought what for how much, and we ask people to recall straight to the bank once they want a bid and come back to pick the item up with the cashier. They are not allowed to bid on more items if they still have an item out to pay, just for security reasons, because someone could really screw us up if we didn't have that rule. And once the auction is done, we sort the items according to seller names. And after the sorting, the cashier or whoever's responsible it is at that night sent out ICQs to all the sellers who have auctions, who have items and checks with us. In that ICQ, they state the grand total of sales, and also the resulting fees. We do not touch sellers' checks. We sort our checks together with the books that the seller brought with them in a bag, so that the seller can easily see which items sold for how much. And we ask the seller to bring us a check for the fees owed in exchange for the checks that they have with us.
Okay. There was one question. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Pratt.
It's really not as simple as it sounds. The vendor is a very simple process. When I say there's 30 people working here, there's 30 people working here. Well, maybe 29, because I don't usually work. But the rest of these guys, I mean, we have a cashier for every auction, and that's 3 a week. We have a backfiller for every auction, that's 3 a week. We have an item broker. Their job is take the item after it's sold, take it off the website, put it in alphabetically into payouts where somebody can handle ICQing the sellers and getting the fees established and having them come pick up their checks. Then somebody has to put items back in the auction chest, fill them into the website so that they're updated on our live auction page so everybody knows what's to sell for the following week. And then we have to write the news of the upcoming 3 auctions each week. So it takes us 6 to 8 people to run each event we do 4 times a week.
Gee, that is quite a bit of administration. But a question I had been wanting to ask you guys for quite a bit actually is some people for a while had been asking for there to be some sort of an in-game auction system, like an NPC ran auction house, and the dev team seemed somewhat interested in it. I mean, they didn't seem against the idea. And I was kind of wondering how you guys feel about that. Do you think it would hurt your business if there was such a thing to that ever was to happen in game? Or do you think it might profit you, or you don't think it would affect you in any way? Scorp, go ahead.
I believe a lot of players that are interested in something like that. I think World of Warcraft runs something like that. Of what I've heard, I have not myself. I've never played WoW, but I have heard they have something like that. But then again, I almost feel that's almost like a vendor. You can just keep going back and forth to an NPC to see what a bid is at, and it would have to be almost like a silent auction, and the item would still stay on there for a day or two, almost like you will auction the website. Whereas with us, item hits the table, it is sold within a couple minutes, and you're getting your item right away and not having to wait a day or two.
Okay, Gregory, go ahead.
Well, I'm not sure about a business whether it would really affect us much. I do think though that this kind of auction is not really let's say a community-based auction, but rather an auction for the sake of selling and buying stuff with bids. I myself really am very much in favor of encouraging player-run events, and I mean a player-run auction has so much more personality than an NPC vendor-run auction could ever have. So I'm not really worried about it, although I don't think it's a really good idea.
Okay, well, I personally also have reserved feelings about it until I would actually have a more detailed idea of what it is that they really have in mind, how it would work. Go ahead, Pratt.
I personally would love to get a week off, so I hope that the dev team hurries up and gets that done right away.
Okay.
But seriously, I'd be curious to see how they pulled it off and what kind of engine they would get to run something like that. I'd like to see it happen. Would it hurt our business? It wouldn't hurt our business because we're not really a business. We're running an event. When the need for that event is no longer, we'll do a different event. You know, we do them all the time. Whatever holiday comes, there's a new event. If we couldn't do an auction, who knows, we'd open a bar. It's just for the shark.
Well, that works. But now, how about you? As a auction guild, are there any features that you would like to see the dev team bring into the game that would make your life easier? Yes, Gregory.
I would love for checks to be more easily recognized. Would it be so hard to put that little comma in every 3 figures or something like that? That, for example, would be really neat. Because if I may add that quick, sorry, if you sell, for example, we had a Luna house sell at one point for over 100 million, and if you're the poor sod of a cashier standing there having to check 101 million checks, whether they're really 1 million checks or not, oh my.
I totally feel your pain on this one. This is something that we have been asking for such a long time. I believe they had answered at one point why they could not do that, and I think it was something to do with the programming or whatever. But it's really something I would love to see, because it was just a few weeks ago, one of my guild members put her, she had a hat of the Magi she wanted to put on her vendor for 16 mil, but she ended up pricing it 1.6 mil. So needless to say, it sold in a heartbeat, and whoever bought it is a very, very, very happy camper right now, and she was quite heartbroken about that one. But, it's really hard to see whether you're putting the right number of zeros in or not, and God knows, a few times I have priced a few things, 100K instead of 1 mil, and it's not cool. Scorp, go ahead.
What I would like to see the dev team and EMs do is not have a emergency maintenance or an EM run event at 9 p.m. Eastern on Wednesdays and Thursdays. They seem to do that from time to time, and there's a little conflict.
Okay, Gregory, go ahead.
Just quick, they do that every time they make every time there's a publish, every time there is an EM run event, it's on a Wednesday or Thursday at about that time. It's really, well, you could start thinking that they really don't want this.
It's kind of hard to say, but, if they're doing it systematically on these days, maybe you might want to consider changing the day you're actually holding those events. Even though it kind of sucks, it's like who should get precedence, but at the same time, we all know if people have half a chance to get one of these uber ridiculously overvalued quest items, we all know where they're going to be going. Pratt, go ahead.
Except we want to go too, but we can't. We have to stay there with 30 people instead of 65 people. But the fact that we get still a crowd willing to do an auction during an event, an in-game event, is something that helps us keep this whole thing going. People want it. We took off for Thanksgiving, and all I got was stories of people that came to the house saying, "Where's MOA?"
Yeah, well, it's kind of hard to basically be able to do everything that you want to do. I know I personally used to organize events, still do from time to time on my own chart, and it's kind of hard at times. You're trying to plan so that you don't end up competing with an EM event, because you cannot win against that. And not only that, but you also want to take part yourself whenever possible. But while we're talking about events, how about you guys tell us a little bit about your own events? Oh, wait a minute. Before I actually get to that, whereabout is your auction houses located? Because we're talking about that a lot, but where could they find them if somebody wants to just go bid on stuff, or they want to bring you stuff to sell? Yes.
Being the great community that Great Lakes is, there are runes to MOA at most of the shops and rune libraries since we've been around such a long time, and we do encourage rune exchange. We do have plenty of runes locked down in front to all the other event houses, but the house is easy to locate. It's on Trammell, the Great Lakes house, just outside of Vesper, right where the Buccaneers portal is. There's a clearing there, and the house is the clearing. So if you came out of Vesper and you hit the portal, you'd be standing in front of MOA. Lake Superior, Ultima was kind enough to donate the Luna house just south of the bank for us to hold the auction in. So that one's pretty easy to find. Come out the bank, go south, and there's MOA.
Cool stuff. Alrighty. Now go into, Gregory, go ahead.
Just for completion, there's the old castle, which is on Dagger Island. It's pretty much rather south of the passage to the seat. So, but there are runes for that too. It's the place where the Monday night events take place.
Alrighty. And now, finally, really not going to events. Because Pratt wants to say something. Go ahead, Pratt.
Unfortunately, the castle that we used to hold the auction in was pretty much the reason that MOA had to move off on its own and go away from the auctions that were going on Ice Island over there. We do use it on Mondays, though. We vowed we wouldn't have auctions there anymore, just out of respect for the old crew. But we have a different event there every Monday at 9 o'clock, and the runes can be found at any of the other MOA houses.
Good stuff. Now, everybody done? No more comments? Just making sure. I'm sorry. I'm feeling in a bratty mood tonight. Okay. Moving on to events. You guys, as based on your website, you have Majestic Madness, which seems to be broken down into 4 different type of events that you seem to be holding basically a different event every Mondays of the week. Every Mondays is a different one, so 4 different events per month. So what can you tell us about that? As I understand, you have the trivia on the first Monday, the Chest of Doom and Delight on the second Monday, Majestic Casino on the third, and Let's Make a Deal on the fourth. So tell us about it. What's all that about? Yes, Gregory.
Majestic Madness is the name that the Monday crew chose for themselves. It used to be, well, in planning, it was planned to be an ever-changing kind of mad and lunatic thing. Although since it's driven by MOA people, it's a given that it's a mad and insane thing. But anyway, so yes, we have at the moment we have these four regularly reoccurring events on a Monday that are in a rotation. We have the Chest of Doom and Delight, which is pretty much which started out to be something on the lines of the White Elephant trading game, where you pick a chest if you're chosen, and you see the contents of it, and you have the choice of trading it off for one of the chests that were chosen before that, for the contents of it, of course. So it's a whole lot of changing round and round, and of course madness ensues. Then we have Let's Make a Deal, which is kind of a bit like coming from the game show. It's actually run by a character called Monty Hall, and it's all kinds of mini games in which players have to do certain things or have to decide on certain things, and in the end they win stuff. That's the short of it. Then we have the Trivia with the Pursuit, which is the Monday night game which has seen the most changes of them all since it started. It was the way this first happened was we used to have a trivia round after auctions, like just trivia questions for all the attending patrons, which would, giving out money and stuff. And we pretty much made a mini game, a Monday night game out of it. We started out just doing a 3-round trivia game for the first hour, and the second hour would be a scavenger hunt. The second hour is still a scavenger hunt, but currently the trivia part of it is in a Jeopardy style. So that's changing on and off. We we have been a little static on those four games. Yeah, I'm coming to casino in a second. On these four games in the last, well, for some time, but it's starting to move again and at a faster pace. So we're trying to do a lot of variations on that night. Although honestly, sometimes it's hard to put all these variations into the game when there's real life to take care of and all that. So sometimes games stick around for longer than intended. Now, as it is, the fourth night is Casino. Casino, together with the auction fees, are the only occurrences where MOA actually takes money from people for doing something. The story behind this is that the Monday night events do not live on the same funds as our regular monthly events. And although we do transfer money between the auction funds and the Monday funds and such when necessary, the thought behind it is that more or less the Monday night should be independent financially. So we came up with the casino idea, which is a way for people to have fun and for us to try and get the money to give away on the other nights. Obviously, this does not always work out, but more or less it sometimes does. So yeah, a quick step back to the auction fees. No, I don't want to go there. I'm done. Believe it or not.
Okay, you don't want to go there. DG's Corp, go ahead.
And just to comment on the casino, is one of those that I am now banned from being a dealer at the MOA casino because I keep losing money, more or less giving it away. But it's a lot of fun, and people come there and play games of chance and possibly double, triple, quadruple their money. And if I'm actually allowed to deal again, come to my table, because chances are I'll just give you the gold.
Well, gee, I know where to go next time I want to raise some money on Great Lakes. Gregory, did you want to say something, or?
It was pretty much on the same lines as DJ just said, so no.
Okay, Pratt, go ahead.
You should come to us if you want to raise gold on Great Lakes, by the way, because MOA also does do a lot of that. We raised over $30 million for Katrina through the UO Coalition, and we're always up for something like that. People come to us all the time to raise gold for whatever reason. This person got hacked, or this person was in New Orleans and lost his computer, and we're happy to do it. Some of the oldest and richest players on the shard work for MOA, and they don't do it because they need the gold. They do it because they want to help other people.
That's awesome. Well, that didn't fall in a deaf ear. I will definitely keep that in mind. Now, talking about these events, because I know you guys are kind of saying that some of them actually cost you money, and I know earlier Pratt had mentioned that you guys don't keep any of the gold that you basically make from the fees. So are we to understand that 100% of the fees that you guys take from the auctions are basically put towards funding these events that you're doing? Yes, Pratt.
Not only 100% of it, but much more than that. Many of the co-owners and the managers and the treasurer and the benefactors are dumping gold into MOA monthly. People that don't work for MOA, people that just want to see us continue. A week doesn't go by, somebody doesn't bring us checks, say, here, give this away next time, or use this for your next event. Literally millions a week going towards events. Last year's Christmas cost us over $100 million, and this year we've passed that already, and we still have a month to go on giveaways and donations, and we have 2 houses just to take in the donations so far this year.
Holy cow. Gee, that's really nice. I'm impressed, especially considering how this game has really gone the me, what can I get, give me more stuff route. It's actually impressive to see you guys giving away so much. Yes, Brad.
It's really crazy. I had to make somebody else the treasurer just because I didn't want all that gold laying around in one of my houses. And I didn't ever want to have to answer to when it got used or how it got used. So I gave that job to Sol, and he's been running the treasury great. But we literally go through at least $2 million a month just in giveaways at the auction. And then whatever the main event is at the end of the month. And this year, a sad story, but one of us was collecting coal armor for years and years and years, and I won't say who it is because he'll cry. I know he's listening. Once they came out with the dyes that let you recreate the coal armor, he got kind of upset, and I understand that it's all being given away this Christmas, piece by piece, through MOA, and I'm honored that he's going to do that and make all our patrons so very happy.
Yeah, it is kind of sad. There's so many really cool items that are kind of going out the window. I mean, in a way, it's fun when you look at things such as the dyes, because I think they're awesome. But when it ends up killing a rare item or a collector's item, it kind of sucks. And that's really mostly the reason why I personally stopped collecting items, because it used to break my heart, saying I had this thing that used to be so uber, and that now, I can't even give it away because it's just not worth anything anymore. I mean, I don't know if you guys remember the mallet and chisel back in the day. I mean, it wasn't worth a gazillion, but it was still worth over 100K. And overnight, it was worth 3 gold pieces, because you can get it from the gargoyles. It is just kind of stuff like that just kind of break your heart. Yes, Pratt.
How many people quit just for that reason? Every month there's another example of something somebody had for 8 years that was worth $10 million last year and is worth nothing now. If you come to the MOA house and look at the rares that are out there on display, we've cried many times as things got ruined, duplicated copies, and their values have dropped through the basement. It's very sad. There's nothing you can do about it, unfortunately, and it does hurt sales. It does make people squeamish on what they will and won't sell, and at the same time, you never know when it's going to be worth nothing tomorrow, so sometimes you just have to take a chance. In the case that you lose hundreds of millions, like people we've seen, it could make you want to quit. It's very frustrating.
It's kind of funny that you were mentioning this, because actually this was a question I was going to ask you a lot further down the road, but I guess we can go right ahead to this and come back to the other questions later. And it's regarding Mondane's legacy. I was kind of wondering how Mondane has affected your guild and your business. I was wondering, has the new expansion drawn people away from your weekly activities? Because, as we all know, everyone and their brother want to go farm the Pureless bosses. But also, has it affected the amount of business that you guys do as an auction house? Because, the Martys had been dropping at the most ridiculous rate. And I think there still are. I kind of given up on the ML stuff at this point, but I think they're still dropping heavily, and so the prices have dropped and whatnot. And so, do people still auction these things at your place? Has the type of item really changed for you, and the amounts that you're basically reaching now, has that dropped or changed in anywhere for? I'm sorry, I know there's a bunch of questions in that, but just answer as you can. Yes, Corp, go ahead.
Every time there's a new expansion, not just Mondane's Legacy, or every time there's a publish that adds content, like when the Paragons first came out with the minor artifacts, it's going to affect business or attendance more, I should say, right at the start, because people are in a hurry to try to get the new items. But then it'll also increase attendance maybe a week or 2 weeks later, because maybe some of these people that were unable to obtain some of the new items figure, hey, I'll go to MOA and possibly get a deal on purchasing the item I was trying to get, which I was unable to get. Excuse me. And whereas I lost my train of thought there. Okay, I'll let Greg talk. Maybe it'll spark my memory a little.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, well, one of the things was, of course, that it always takes away attendance at the beginning when people want to try it out. We do have a good core attendance, though. We have a lot of really regular patrons who just know when the auction is, and they just come. They might miss an auction or two when the new content first comes out, but often not even that. So yeah, it, of course, things like that do affect our business, our sales, since Pratt very truly said that we are not a business as such. For example, with the new expansion, we had a lot more minor artifacts offered to us as submissions and things like that. But all in all, it pretty much equals out in the end, in the long run. What the new expansions do, though, to us is, apart from the regular customers and patrons or visitors or however you want to call it, it is getting harder to attract attention, because it used to be so that people were gathering at West Brit Bank or wherever else, or at least you could like run through the banks and at least address most of them. Now we have the Takuno Islands, and we have the new Mondane's Legacy places, and we have Malice, and we have Ilchinar, and we have all these places where people actually are and where people actually spend time, that it's not so easy anymore for our gators to actually give everyone the chance to be there who does not know that there will be a gate popping up at West Brit Bank. We do gate, at least from West Brit Bank, every time we have an event. We start 15 minutes earlier, at 15 minutes prior to the event, and we gate, well, we try to gate all night through. So if people know where to look for the gate, they can catch it. But for those who do not know about it yet, it is getting more difficult to actually reach these people, to actually catch their attention.
Yes, there's no doubt that the population is a lot more scattered now, so rounding up people can be a challenge. Scorp, did you remember what you were trying to say?
Yeah, I was going to say about how items, like how you mentioned with the increased rate of how minor artifacts have dropped, whereas if you go back to like when Age of Shadows came out, everyone got roses and a piece of clothing or something, sandals and stuff, and at first those items would come and a lot of them would no sell or go for very low, whereas now you see after a couple years those items are going into the 100K mark and such. So hopefully at some point maybe they'll stop dropping these minor artifacts and maybe some value will come of them later on down the road. That's always a hope when you get new items that drop at an increased rate.
Yeah, I guess it's pretty much the same thing that was going on with the Takuno major arties. For a while there, you could get them for peanuts, and then, the closer you were getting to the date where they no longer dropped, the more their value increased. And now they're worth a pretty penny if you manage to secure a few for yourself. Yes, Pratt, go ahead.
That's a good point. A lot of people have a lot of stuff laying around in a lot of houses because they said, oh, it's going to be worth something someday, and it was. And then you have the reverse, and 10 rares got ruined and they were worth nothing. So I guess that's our balance of economy left on Great Lakes now. But the new expansion always brings a lot of changes. Attendance is always one of them. You know, instead of having 65 people in the house, you'll have 45, 50 people. We never do an auction with less than 30 people, and we've never had to call off an auction. We've cut one short a couple times for another event that was going on in game, but we always get enough people so that our sellers will feel comfortable with the prices that their items are bringing in. But if you offer people something else to do, there's always going to be people that'll go do it. And MOA has been here and is always going to be here, so they know when they're done exploring the new lands, they can come back. And the new items push off, of course, the items that are sitting in the chests, even though MOA has a rule not to take any items in and promise that they will sell the week that we're accepting them, except for what we call the Pratt rule, because I take items in and I force these guys to do them, and they get mad at me because they have like 90 items sitting in there that I've been waiting 2 weeks to do. But that's not my problem.
You weren't kidding about your ICQ. You seem very popular. But that said, going back a little bit to what we were talking about, because we kind of ended up going back to auctions because we were talking about all these pricing things and whatnot. If we're going back a little bit to events, do you actually, excuse me, hold a second. Sorry about that. I had a wee bit of a real life situation going on here. So, okay, back with you. About the events. You guys didn't mention, well, you kind of mentioned that you have this house in Fell now, but most of your events, the ones that are described, pretty much seem to be taking place in-house. Do you have any events that you organize that are not basically in-house activities? Do you have any PvP or PvM events that you organize? Or are your events all essentially like 100% safe from death, other than drinking too much, I guess? So, Gregory, go ahead.
Actually, most of the monthly events we do are not inside a house, and many of them are not safe from death. Well, let's just make a couple of examples. We had a couple of our last events. One was a boat race, for example, where we just had people go with a boat through a preset course with MOA people stationed at certain points, giving them the coordinates for the next point, and we had them get around a couple of obstacles and stuff like that. And we actually did have a dead there who was unlucky enough to get killed by a water elemental at the finish line, which was kind of tricky of that thing to spawn there. But anyway, a little while back we had an event where a couple of our staff members were actually kidnapped and were brought down to the depths of Terathan Keep, and it was the job of the patrons or of the contestants to go in there to find the ghosts of the kidnapped and obviously killed MOA people and escort them safely out of the keep. Resurrect them first, of course, and the ghost would only stay with them as long as it's alive. Now that was kind of contradictory. The person, once the person was raised, they would stay with them, but they had to keep them alive. And once the MOA person died again, they would once again get lost within the keep. Things like that. So we have all kinds of events outside of a house, and the monthly event most of the time is outside.
Okay, my bad. I had not realized that you had a monthly event on top of the weekly events. Go ahead, Scorp.
You better be careful. You said you've had too much to drink. That might make you a candidate to work for MOA. That's almost a prerequisite. But yeah, some of our events are pretty interesting and definitely not safe from death. I believe it's probably been about a year now where we did what we call the Monster Island outside of Scarborough, where there's like multiple treasure map locations on an island, and we just dug up level 5 maps all at the same time, and you can imagine this increase. The spawn rate was crazy with high-end creatures, which hopefully we'll be doing another one with level 6 maps here soon, and that should be a lot of fun and definitely not safe for people, but there'll be rezzers on hand, and I'm sure everyone will have a good time and make some gold and get some treasure.
Indeed, if you're digging up a bunch of level 6 in the same area, it will be everything but safe. But it should be interesting. Pratt, go ahead.
We actually had an event last year where we made an anti-MOA guild, and we had an RP going for about 6 weeks, and we had people join the anti-MOA guild, and at the end, we all attacked the castle, trying to get the deed back to the castle. It was a lot of fun. We definitely do some crazy things that are not 100% Trammel safe. Like Gregory said before, most of the Trammel events are easier to secure. RDs is a nightmare. Even if we didn't have BC trying to kill everybody, to secure an event on Felucca and make it safe for people is impossible. We never thought to do that. We knew we weren't going to do that. That's a pipe dream. But we do try to warn people, hey, this one might get you killed. Come anyway, and we usually have a great attendance.
That is what I was going to wonder about, because are the monthly event typically held in Fel, or it's really totally random? Because I was just wondering to what extent you actually organize Fel events. Yes, Gregory.
There was a kind of a mix-up there. We have Red Devil's auction at the Red Devil Auction Tower once a month in Felucca. This is not our monthly event, though. Our monthly event is usually something completely different, like, as I said, like a boat race, or we had a chicken run on Lake Superior the last time. At the moment, we have a series of virtue-related events going on Great Lakes as monthly events, where some person from a faraway land, from a faraway shard where the virtues were corrupted, is trying to regain them for his home shard, and he needs our players to help him with that. And like we that's usually done in a couple of quest-like things that we do. So there's always either it's just a fun event like the boat race or chicken run or stuff like that, or it is a thing with a bit of a story behind it. We do not require people to role play this, although if they want to, they're of course welcome to do it. But yes, that's not our monthly event. Our monthly event is the other thing. That's our monthly event, not Red Devils. And actually, I wanted to, quite out of context, it is actually our third Christmas, not our second. That's totally out of context, but anyway.
All right. Oh my God, I'm so totally getting a blank. I was gonna ask you a question. What was it? I should totally blame Vice for it. Oh wow, I really got a total and complete blank on this one. Oh well, I guess I'll just let Viceroy ask his usual infamous question, and then hopefully I will have remembered what I wanted to ask you. So go ahead, Vice.
Sure thing. I'm kind of curious whether or not, and I'm going to go actually down the list here, and I always ask every guild or organization we ever have here for an interview whether or not they would play on a pre-UR shard if EA was to come out and introduce one. And if they were to introduce such a shard, would you be willing to pay for access to such a shard? So going down the list here, I'm going to start off with DJ Scorp. What are your feelings on that?
That would definitely be interesting, and I guess more so since I've been playing Ultima Online now for 7 years plus now. It's not really the game itself that keeps me here, it's the people that I associate with, and a lot with MOA and stuff. So I think a lot of it would be if the majority of us that I call friends and stuff say, hey, let's go over here. I'd be willing to pay whatever and join them over there and just continue on, because it's really the community and the friendship and the bonds that you have established with people that keep me in UO. I mean, it's not the graphics, I'd say, and sometimes it's not the gameplay, but it's the people you go out and do things with, and that's how I will answer that, I guess.
Yeah, I can totally relate to exactly what you're saying and everything, because I've been playing this game for about 8 years come December 2nd. So, yeah, that's just a few days away, and I can totally relate. So, Gregory, go ahead and tell us where you stand on that. Well, what are your thoughts on it?
Well, I'm one of the people who are really constantly. Well, I'm constantly mourning the times gone by. I need to get this off my mind. I am a 100-month account, so it's kind of a cool feeling to be that. But apart from that, it's pretty much what DJ said already. I would be very interested in the rule set, the UOR rule set, and together with it, sorry, that's really difficult to say. The community is everything, and the people playing are everything. And the main reason why I really am sad about the existence of Trammel in the first place is that it, in my eyes, pretty much just killed the kind of community we used to have. Like bangs were thriving places where people just hung out, and it was not spamming with stuff, but people were actually just there and meeting other people, and you would go down to a dungeon with complete strangers, because there was safety in numbers and stuff like that. And it wasn't like, oh, you're entering Felucca now, so everyone is out to kill you. That was a totally different Felucca rule set we had there. On the other hand, all the people I like to play with and all the people who are the reasons why I actually still play this game are on Great Lakes, which is not a UOR shard. So I would be very interested in the shard. I would not completely move over there unless my community were to move with me. So I'm on one page with DJ there. It would be a cool thing to have, but as long as the community issue still exists, I'm not sure how successful it will be.
Yeah. Well, my whole take has been I always enjoyed the pre-UR facet or the rule set, where you only have one facet and you didn't have Ishwaner, you didn't have Takuno, you didn't have Malice, and all these other facets were pretty much spread out the player base. But instead you had pretty much all your players consolidated in a central area. You could pretty much go to a town like Delucia, Minnock, or any other town, and pretty much always find someone there. And nowadays, it's just hard to come across anybody. So in a lot of ways, I definitely can relate. And as you probably can tell, I'm a big fan of pre-UOR. And I hope they do someday actually introduce it, and I would also be willing to pay for something like that. So, Pratt, what are your thoughts and feelings?
Well, I would love it, first of all, okay? The days before Trammel were the greatest, of course, because we played it. We knew what it was like before there was an option. So it's easy for us to all to say, oh, it was so much better then, because we didn't know any better, and we still love this game. I don't get to play anymore. I come in and I do my MOA stuff and I fill my one vendor and I keep the 4 accounts going because they have MOA event houses on them, but there's just no time after all that is said and done to play anymore. So while I would support such a thing, I would talk Scorp into going and opening an MOA on that shard, and I'd stay right here where I was and keep doing the best I could to keep my head above water.
Yep, very good response. And I'm actually going to ask another question. I'm not sure if this has already been covered or not because I had to go AFK a time or two during the course of the interview. But in case it didn't get asked, I guess I'll go ahead and ask. Because of the fact you guys run so many different establishments, as you said already, you have 4 different establishments. I guess that's what you meant by the 4 different accounts in which you keep going. So what that said and everything, have you guys ever considered or ever attempted to create a player-run town? And if so, what kind of success did you guys have with that? I mean, was it a failure, or did you guys never attempt to do that, or what? Okay, and Gregory, go ahead.
Well, we're not such a role-playing group, so while it is, well, I have a lot of respect for the role-playing part and such, and actually I came to Ultima Online through role-playing because I thought, oh wow, I mean, we all were really enthusiastic AD&D player and such, which is why all of us are here. This is I'm really convinced this is it. But anyway, once here I found that role-playing in that game was not really what I was after, although I do enjoy taking part in it every now and then. But yeah, the whole concept of a player-run town is one that is strongly linked to being a role-playing community, and I don't think we ever took that step. Apart from the fact that I really enjoy visiting these places, and I enjoy visiting famous role-playing landmarks, Cazola's Tavern and stuff like that. It's really cool to have these things around, but we never tried to actually establish a town.
All right, and I guess I'll turn it over here to Pratt, and then I might actually add on to that question. Is there a player-run town on Great Lakes that you guys know of? And if so, can you maybe tell me a little bit about that player-run town, just for our knowledge, general knowledge for us players who do not play on Great Lakes? Go ahead, Pratt.
We wanted to open the tavern. We inherited a house in Luna. Actually, a great friend of ours, player that everybody knows, known as Purple, decided to retire from the game. She was a huge benefactor of MOA. She would come spend lots of money, give gold away. Great person, handed us this house when she left the game, and said do something with it. We decorated it as a tavern, and it's been a year now, and we never opened it. We have worked other taverns. We've gone to FCB, and they've had tavern night, and they've let MOA go there and tell stories and give items away and stuff like that, but we never tried to open an MOA tavern because after we built the whole thing, we figured there were too many vendors there, too much going on, and Luna wasn't the right place for it, and that's where it left.
All right, and is there any player-run towns like similar to what Chesapeake has, which is Pax Slayer? Do you guys have a Pax Slayer type town on Great Lakes, and if so, what's the name of that town on Great Lakes, or do you guys not have one? Go ahead, Pratt.
See, I should know more about this because I had to review them one time, but the town is called Newcastle. I'd like to tell you where they are and what the name of the tavern is, but they are still active. I think it's run by RKS, and if I got that wrong, guys, I'm sorry. And I know that FCB still opens their tavern, not on a regular basis, but on a more announced basis, and they're successful when they do.
All right, and just for the record, and correct me if I'm wrong, FCB is the Fishing Council of Britannia, is that correct?
Yes, we've done a lot of events with them, Ned tosses, and they did a silent auction that we participated in, and they're great people, and they've been around for a long time, and Jem's very cool.
Yeah, speaking of which, I think we might have to end up getting an interview with them sometime in the future, call them over, because I know they've been kind enough to put yourradio.com up on their website and everything like that. So, yeah, I think that'd be great organization to interview in the future. And yeah. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to Sakara.
Before you go, I just wanted to mention that I did notice that in the links of interest, I didn't see MOA there. Just to throw that in.
Oh.
I wanted to, while we're talking about play around town and whatnot, I have been basically gathering information about all the RP towns and unique locations on every shard, basically dedicated a page to each shard. And it's kind of interesting that you mentioned this because I'm definitely going to give you the third degree about whatever play around town you have. But and there's one, it's not really a town, but the Temple of Mondane that you guys have in Felucca, Compassion Desert, is absolutely the bomb. I don't know if the guild that owned the place is still active, but it's really pretty awesome. I don't know if you've seen it or whatever. It's like a large castle with is it a castle? No, it's a large tower. Is it? Let me look at the picture real quick. And it's got quite a few blessings on it, and I was like, wow. Yeah, it is it's a keep. It's a keep or a castle. A keep. Yes, Pratt, go ahead.
The house itself is still around. It's not the original people who own it, but yes, it is very impressive. There are a lot of the old blessed houses and even some of the newer design houses that really came out very nice in the end.
Yeah, they look pretty cool. But the show's almost ending, and I do have two more questions for you guys, so we're going to move along. And the first one I wanted to ask, and that's the one I could not remember when I was having my blank a little earlier. And it's, you've been mentioning Black Company, and I was kind of wondering, have you ever tried kind of striking a deal with them before one of your events? Because I'm looking at Atlantic. I run a Champ Spawn guild there, and we all know how much competition there is between all the various Champ Spawn guilds. Everybody's at each other's throat, and, if you're not my buddy, you're KOS. But from time to time, I organize in-game events for the entire shard, and some of them, I really want them to go through FEL. And basically, I contact the GM of all the enemy guilds and, try to make a deal with them. It's like, look, can we have some form of a truce for the duration of the event? We're not going to attack you guys, and we ask you not only not to attack us, but especially not to mess with the questers. It's not so bad if you mess with us, but, at least leave the Trammies that we're going to bring into FEL alone, so that they can just enjoy the event. Have you guys ever tried maybe making a deal like that with Black Company or any other FEL guilds when you do events? Yes, Scorp, go ahead.
I can't answer for Pratt fully to that question, but for the most part, I would just say we don't strike deals with any of these Black Company or other guilds because really we're here to serve the entire shard, the entire community. And if a BC member wishes to join and come partake in any event that we're sponsoring, they're free to attend, and we're not going to hold it against them because their guild tag says BC. If they come and disrupt, they're going to be treated just like anyone else that would disrupt. So no, we don't really just try to go out there. We're not going to pay someone to say, hey, leave us alone so we can run an event, because all MOA events are free. We don't charge admission to come in. We don't charge to come, and partake in the night's event. We just want people to come and enjoy. So, if we have to pay someone $20 million, then, that's not going to happen because it's silly. We're there to serve. If they want to partake, great. If not, oh well, we'll deal with it in another way.
Actually, the idea was not to actually bribe them not to come raiding or messing with the event, but really more like, to have a talk with them. It's like, look, this isn't about our, own little thing. We're trying to do something for the shard. Like, how about you give everyone a break and just don't mess with it, And no, I fully agree with you. You should not have to pay to get them to not take part. Not to not take part, but not to mess with the event. And I agree. If you're organizing an event for the Shard, then whatever person's tag, they should be allowed to participate like everyone else. But it would be nice if some of them would actually not mess with the event, just for everyone's enjoyment. Go ahead, Pratt.
We try to play nice with everybody. When BC said we couldn't do the auction, we tried to reason with them. We tried to explain how it's for the Shard and how they don't own Fell, even though they think they do, and how we're going to do it anyway because it's for the Shard. It's not for them. It's not about them. And, you know, their answer is, well, you're not going to do it, and we hate you guys, and we're going to kill everybody, and blah, blah, blah. And, okay, guys, come kill everybody. We're still going to have the event because Great Lakes wants us to have it. When they decide they don't want us to have it anymore, we won't do it. And we've cut lots of deals with lots of guilds to come help protect this event. Both Felucca and Trammel-based guilds who just believe either, like we believe, that, hey, this is our game and we can play it anywhere we want, or they just didn't appreciate the way that we were treated.
That's awesome. Go ahead, Gregory.
Well, as Pratt said in the beginning, there is no malice between BC and MOA, at least not from our side. But I do have to say it's a huge shame that it happened that way because when we first tossed out the plan that we wanted to reopen Red Devil's auction tower, there were a lot of really good responses on the Stratix pages, and especially from old players who actually remembered the auction tower. For those who do not know it, this was actually that was the first in-game auction anywhere really, not only on Great Lakes. So there's a huge amount of history behind that, and many, especially old players, were really enthusiastic about that opening. And among these, also a couple of Black Company players who thought, oh well, that can be fun. And then at one point it seems that it was decided by the guild leadership that this is a not to happen event, so they put every effort into it to do just that, to not let it happen. And I just think it's a real shame. And honestly, I wouldn't even complain if it all went in a regular way, like if they just like camped the outside and tried to get a hit on everyone who tried to enter or leave the tower. But the way it happens, it's not a pleasant sight. The tower roof is usually covered in fields and nature's furies and stuff. So it's a shame that it happened that way. But it seems like the only way Black Company would not do this is if we were to say, yeah, you're right, and no one is doing anything in Felucca unless Black Company explicitly agrees with it. And well, that's what we are not doing. We are not going to ask another guild for permission to do something on Felucca for the Great Lakes community. So there seems to be no possible deal to be struck, sadly.
Yeah, I can definitely see where you're coming from on that front, and it's kind of sad. But as long as the rest of the community, I guess, is supporting you, then that's really all that matters. You are fulfilling a need, and they're supporting you for it. So more power to you. Now, we're already like 5 minutes away from the end of the show, so I will proceed with the last question, and it is, what do you guys see for your future? Where would you guys want to be? Any great plans, in 1 year, in 2 years, in 10 years, hopefully if you are still around? Where would you like to see MOA at? Yes, Corp.
Pretty much, I think just taking it year by year is we just want to see ourselves continue on as long as there's a need for our services and people still find enjoyment in the events that we bring. We're going to keep on at it. I think every now and then it gets a little tiresome and some of us get burnt out, And that's where having the staff that we have, it's always great because someone's always there to pick up the slack. Someone goes on vacation, someone gets ill, or someone just needs a couple of weeks off. There's always someone to step up and cover for them, and then vice versa. But going into the new year here, we got going. Of course, we got the great Christmas event that is just going to be huge. Just speaking with some of the staff and some of the things that are already being organized, it's just going to be amazing. And going into the new year, more events, hopefully, and something a little more wilder. I know there's a talk of just tossing maybe 30 to 40 fabled nets at the same time and just having a great old time trying to kill that many leviathans at once. And there's just some things in the thought process, and that'll be worked on and a lot of fun coming in 2006.
Alrighty. You were talking very close to your mic, I think, so it was a little hard to understand. But yeah. What I basically got overall from it was that you guys are going to be, you're hoping to be getting a lot more of these events going in the upcoming weeks. I hope that's what you were saying. Sorry about that, but it was a bit hard to understand. Pratt, go ahead.
Okay, Scorp drinks. I'm sorry for that, everybody. It's not his fault that he's incoherent sometimes. Realistically, though, where I would like to see MOA is exactly where we are now. We have an event Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and one a month, and we can't keep up. A month does not go by that somebody doesn't offer us, hey, come to Napa Valley. We can do it on Napa Valley. I wish we had the staff for it, but the truth is the core people, the co-owners and the owners of these houses that are trusted with hundreds of millions of items, they come and go. We can't all stay here 5 years, 7 years, 8 years. We've lost people. We've lost good people. And to find people to come in and take over a new shard and build trust and get 3 or 4 people to go over with them is just getting harder and harder to do. So I think status quo, and we just keep going forward and providing for the needs of the shard until they tell us they don't need us anymore.
Well, that's not a bad way to go. Gregory, go ahead.
I have to agree with Brad. I really want to see MOA where it is now, providing fun and events to whoever wants to have them. There are still lots of things to explore. I mean, lots of ways to make events happen in a way that we've not done yet. So we still have a good way to go before we run out of ideas. Thing about branching out is it would of course not be too difficult to just set up another auction house on another shard, but we would want any out branching to still be MOA, and that's starting to be difficult to actually realize. So yes, I don't see us branching out to yet another shard before too long. But yes, we definitely will be here as long as there's a player base who wants to have events and some fun and, well, maybe some insanity too. And that's the thing about DJ too. He doesn't really drink as such, but he sometimes needs a smack around the head, and I'm not close enough to him to do that right now. So he has to be all kind of fuzzy in his talking. Yeah. Once the shard closes down, they will have to drag us out there kicking and screaming, and I'm not sure where we're going then. But until that moment, we will be here and with a vengeance.
Awesome. I'm sure there aren't too many people that are going to be sad about that. Well, this actually concludes our interview with the Majestic. Oh, God, I cannot pronounce this. I'm sorry, but English is not my language, and this is a huge tongue twister for me. But let me give it a try again. Here goes nothing. This was our interview with the Majestic Oaks Auction House. Jeez. And I'm going to give every one of our guests a chance to say their goodbyes. So, Scorp, if you want to say a little goodbye to everybody.
because it's never goodbye. It's always hello to the next event, the next gathering, and I don't want to say goodbye. I want to talk for another hour because I don't have to go anywhere for another hour.
Well, I wish we could, but I'm actually going to get drunk IRL momentarily because it's my brother's birthday and we're gonna party. But it was great having you with us, Corp. Gregory, if you want to say your goodbyes or rather your hello till next time.
I don't really have any witty comment to make here, so I'm just going to say it. It was great being here. Thanks for giving us the chance to be here, and I hope to see as many of our listeners here at as many future events as possible. And let's not have all these publishers on our event times. That's really kind of annoying. Apart from that, I really want to say there were some things that were definitely serious, but there were other things which are not meant to be serious, and just sort them out. Pratt doesn't really hate DJ, he just pretends.
I hear you. Pratt, actually, I'm going to ask you to not only say your parting comments, but also if you want to remind our listeners what the URL of the MOA website is for people that want to find out more about what's going on your shard and the stuff that you have to offer.
Okay. You guys can always find us at www.uo-moa.net. And we're always there. We always have all your answers. There's a forum there that you can write to us on. I will never write back to you, but some of these people will. And I don't hate DJ. And if I will give you $10 million if you just leave the little light on and tell him he can keep talking after we all go home. Before I go, I would just like to say it's really about all you guys listening out there. It's not about MOA. And it's not only from MOA. There's a lot of contributors. It's the FCBs and the Ultimas and the Quans and even Bart and BC that help us come together as a shard and a community and interact for better or for worse. And I'm sorry to the rest of the staff that wanted to come here, but they only let me bring 3 people. I know you're all listening out there, and it's you guys that make MOA, not the 3 of us. Look forward to great things coming from MOA for the holidays, and I wish you all safe travels.
Well, this was the interview with MOA. No, I'm not going to try to say the name again. And it was a blast having you guys. Thanks so much for joining us. Thanks to everybody that joined us in IRC and the people that just listened to our show. It will be available for download for those of you who missed it, probably either tonight or tomorrow. I'm just going to whip Viceroy to make sure that he does it soon. So thanks again, everyone, and don't forget we have Siren Voices coming right up, and we have a lot of shows during the week, music, talk show next Saturday, the interview with the Gentle Rest in next Sunday, so be sure to tune in. Thanks, everyone, and it is DJ Sakara signing off.